Alright, Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, brace yourself because Kendrick Lamar in the next few weeks is about to absolutely change the entire scope of the next generation of hip-hop. We're less than a month into the second half of the 2020s decade, and just based off the activities that Kendrick Lamar's got lined up, not even what he's executed already thus far, you can tell this is a setup, this is a play for him to become the biggest voice in not just hip-hop but in music. Not just the greatest voice, but the biggest. While the former biggest voice in music is busy suing, the next runner-up is about to be singing on the Super Bowl stage, possibly at the Grammys, and most definitely in stadiums all across North America. Yes, he already gave us 3 #1 songs last year. Yes, he already gave us a project in November with GNX, but we've gotten many hints that this is not the end. And look at the face in that thumbnail. Does that look like a person who's satisfied? I mean, he told you he wants to watch the party die and rebuild it. And he's taking all the right steps to do so and reshape hip-hop in the process. I really do think, especially this Super Bowl performance, it's about to mark a shift in the tides. Obviously, the battle with Drake already did. The massive 2024 that Kendrick had was a testament to how he can maintain star power, artistic authenticity, while simultaneously displaying talent and cultural elements of his hometown in a more prominent way than he had ever done before. But the Super Bowl is a much bigger statement. It's a chance to really elevate into that upper echelon of the highest acclaimed and notarized artists on the planet. I mean, just look in recent years. You had Rihanna touch the Super Bowl stage, and in and around that same time, she becomes a billionaire. She remains one of the most streamed artists to this day, even though she hasn't dropped an album in almost 10 years. We really need that Rihanna album. Then you got The Weeknd, who did the Super Bowl entirely by himself and went right from that stage to stadium world tours. I think he was doing stadiums for like 2 years after that Super Bowl performance. It absolutely catapulted him into another stratosphere. Usher went from the Super Bowl to a massive Las Vegas residency. Snoop Dogg went from the Super Bowl to the Olympics. 50 Cent keeps claiming that he almost wasn't going to be a performer during that Dr. Dre Super Bowl show, but once he did, he went back on the road and completed one of the highest grossing hip-hop tours of all time. I say all this to say the Super Bowl really puts a different set of eyeballs on you, a bigger set than I think Kendrick has had up to this point. And we know with every piece of art that Kendrick delivers, there's intent behind all of it, behind every detail. There's a high standard of creativity that goes into every single project he's completed. So I have no doubt visually this is going to be one of the most layered, Easter egg fueled pieces of content that we've got from Kendrick. But to piggyback off of everything he did in 2024 and everything he discussed on GNX, trying to push peace in LA, elevate his city, bring that West Coast sound to the forefront of hip-hop. I think whatever he does in this show will prioritize that. From the guests, to the imagery, to the song choices, the backdrops, the cultural references. It's going to be the pop-out show on a global stage. And we're going to break down the entire trailer that just dropped where he announced SZA as one of the guests that'll be performing with him and why that's a perfect combination at this point in time. I think we'll be getting a lot more guests than just SZA, but we'll touch on that very shortly. But again, everything in Kendrick's messaging and the visuals and the actual music is always intentional, and you could see that just by the promo picture that Apple Music put out, which reads, "Hip-hop's MVP Kendrick Lamar is officially headlining the Apple Music Super Bowl halftime show with SZA as his special guest." And look at the colors he's wearing. Again, he told us last year that his goal was to push peace in LA, to unify the rivaling gangs and stop the violence. We saw that displayed at the highest degree during the pop-out show when he brought a bunch of different rivaling gang members on stage as he was wearing a red hoodie. Then in the Squabble Up music video, we get a bunch of different references to iconic West Coast art, the Nate Dogg and Ice-T albums, the Menace to Society reference, all while Kendrick was wearing a blue hoodie and blue hat. And now in this Apple Music promo, he's wearing all purple. What colors need to be mixed to make purple? Blue and red. Again, another visual representation of the unification that Kendrick is trying to bring to the Blood and Crip gangs in LA. And what better way to do that than to perform the hits off your most recent album where you feature a bunch of different West Coast artists. But we'll get to that shortly and whether or not we'll be seeing Not Like Us on that stage. But aside from that, you have to also remember that Kendrick's not alone in the production of this show. He's got his right-hand man, Dave Free, yes, the guy that Drake mentioned on Family Matters, who is not just the co-founder along with Kendrick of their label PG Lang, but aside from being a manager, Dave is also a filmmaker. He was responsible for the production of the pop-out show. He's directed multiple Kendrick music videos, including Not Like Us. They partnered up with Cash App to direct a bunch of different commercials.
What happened? Man, Peanut is what happened. Had me hot on my mama, hot. Seven, 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 seven. Back to back to back to back. Bro, I was mad. He was all in my bag, in my pockets, and my whole duffy. I was ready to get out.
Basically what he is saying, he saved up his money to get a local barbershop. He then made a friendly business wager with Peanut in hopes to secure more money for his business. But eventually losing it all with one roll of the dice.
Don't you tell you?
In the beginning, everybody had a plan for my money, but then I realized I just got to do my own thing. And don't get me wrong, I want to monetize my career, but at the same time, I don't want to be making moves that require me to do too much. I just want to put the money to the side, not have to worry about it, but still know that it's growing.
And even the trailers in promotion of the Super Bowl have been super on point in terms of the visuals. They're simplistic, but there's tons of Easter eggs within them. And you already know that this is going to translate into even greater visuals that will be seen on the Super Bowl stage. And so that's what I mean by this is a lot more than just a regular performance or even just some regular artist performing at the Super Bowl. This is an extremely calculated artist with a team of creative individuals who he came up with. I mean, if you heard the Hard Part 6, you know how far back Kendrick goes with all the guys on TDE, with Dave Free, with his whole team. And this is an artist who is hellbent on making a change within the culture and within the genre. Like, yes, Rihanna was great, Usher was great, The Weeknd was great, but Kendrick has been on a mission. If that wasn't apparent in 2024, you'll only see that further in 2025, especially with the Super Bowl performance. So as far as the trailer that just dropped today, we see Kendrick on a football field talking on the phone. Who he's talking to, hard to say, but we have some theories, all right? We'll touch on some theories. But in this phone call, he's talking about, the preparation behind the Super Bowl, getting his body in motion, getting his wind up.
What's up with it? Yeah, everything's smooth. I'm on the field right now. Yeah, same old, keeping the body in motion. Getting that wind up.
And this sounds like exactly what he was talking about on Man at the Garden, where he rapped that he deserves it all. I'm waking up at 6 a.m., 6 miles a day, conditioning my win. Like, he's elevating his mind, body, and soul, ready to be in the best shape possible so that all these blessings that he deserves come his way. And he's saying he's got to be in this top shape because this football field, is a lot bigger than people think, so it's a must.
This field a lot bigger than what people think, so that's a must. Exactly.
And that's not just to say, this is a much bigger opportunity than most people expect, so I gotta be in the perfect shape for it. But it's also in reference to the song that started all this, First Person Shooter, where Drake and J. Cole were going back and forth on who's the GOAT, claiming that their link up was big as the Super Bowl. Kendrick here is saying the Super Bowl's a lot bigger than you think. Then we see SZA walking up behind him as he says, yeah, I've been thinking about a guest performance.
I've been thinking about a guest performance.
And as he says that, she pours blue liquid all over him. Now, again, everything's intentional, or maybe everything's a reach and we're just reaching here. But there's a lot of different ways you can look at this visual. Firstly, shout out to Dissect Podcast for pointing this out. The last time Los Angeles won the Super Bowl, the Gatorade poured on the players was blue. Same exact image as we're seeing here, and we know that Kendrick said he's about to walk into New Orleans with the etiquette of LA. This image also looks very similar to the cover art of Drake's song with SZA, Slime You Out, where Halle Berry is getting slime poured all over her at the Nickelodeon Teen Choice Awards. Now, I don't know if this is intentional, but Drake trying to stop a song, calling him a PDF file from being played at the Super Bowl, Kendrick doing a Super Bowl promo, reenacting the visuals of a Drake cover art that took place at the Teen Choice Awards, SZA pouring the water or the slime, and her being featured on that Drake song with that cover art, her also having been in a relationship with Drake when they were teens, and just recently refusing to answer the question of whether or not Drake was a good kisser, chalking it up to them just being teens.
Is Drake a good kisser?
Oh, wow.
She's not gonna answer. He must have been terrible.
She did. Oh. She answered.
Was he good kisser?
Wow. Y'all mean this?
I don't want to. It hurts. We were children.
We were children. That was the sound of lies.
2009, we were children.
I mean, it's a simple good or not good.
And the fact that you don't want to say one is very telling.
They'll try to double team me into guilt because I'm affected by it.
I don't know, this could all be a reach, but I think it's too funny to be just a coincidence. Now, a couple more reaches for you guys. Kendrick is standing right around the 28-yard line on the field. February 28th is a Friday. That's the date that new music drops. Just putting that out there. I don't know. I definitely think we're going to be getting some new K-Dot music. I don't know if it's going to be that soon, but if you guys have any other theories as to why he's standing at that number particularly, then you know what to do. Drop those comments. You also see seemingly a marching band, and this has people thinking that Tyler, the Creator, is also going to be another one of the guest performers, possibly even the one that Kendrick is on the phone with throughout this trailer. Aside from Tyler actually commenting himself on the post Kendrick made where he posted this trailer, the visuals of this marching band walking down the field is very reminiscent to the people marching in Tyler's album trailer for Chromacopia, and it could also be symbolic of an HBCU marching band, which is the same sound that Tyler mimics or pays homage to on the biggest hit of his Chromacopia album, Sticky. It's a very anthemic track. I could definitely see Kendrick bringing Tyler out to do some sort of rendition of that song. Also, don't forget that Tyler has a remix to Kendrick's song Hey Now, which is played at the end of this trailer. On a side note, Hey Now has got to be one of my favorite songs off GNX. It just hits too hard. Let me know what your favorite song off GNX is. And I mean, again, everything with all of these different visuals is very intentional. On the first Super Bowl trailer that Kendrick dropped, we saw him tossing footballs out of a machine, seemingly also talking to someone who we weren't sure of at the time. But we come to find out that Beyonce was performing at the halftime show at the Christmas Day NFL game, and in the trailer where she announced that she's catching a football from an unknown tosser, seemingly the same footballs that Kendrick was tossing to an unknown catcher. In that original trailer, Kendrick also said there's only one chance to win a championship, no round twos.
You know, there's only one opportunity to win a championship, no round twos. Let's get it.
And at the time, Drake was talking all this crazy talk about him emerging victorious in Game 2. People at the time thought this meant he was trying to re-spark his beef with Kendrick, but it seems like Game 2 for Drake is just Steak-sponsored streams with Aiden Ross and OVHO Sweatshop-sponsored lawsuits at UMG. But again, everything with the imagery, with the visuals that Kendrick Lamar and Dave Free have been putting together, it's all intentional. Even Kendrick's close affiliate, DJ Head, had said in an interview when he was asked what we could expect from Kendrick's Super Bowl performance, he mimicked a lot of these same ideas, saying that we should expect intentional imagery and possibly imagery that might shock us.
What will the Super Bowl bring to him that others have seen, like the Beyoncés, the Princes?
Everything is intentional. He doesn't do anything without intent. I think he's going to be extremely intentional with this. The messaging, the wardrobe, the everything, the shoes,
top to bottom.
I think we might see some imaging that's going to be shocking to people because on that type of stage, right?
Again, there's always these little Easter eggs, and I don't know if this is him referencing that we might see a Not Like Us performance at the Super Bowl. We'll touch on that shortly, but he also said, just like at the pop-out show, everything within this performance will be culturally potent. It's going to push those messages of peace and unity and empowerment within his hometown.
I think that his Super Bowl appearance will be culturally potent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Hidden
Culturally
in plain
potent.
sight.
Correct.
If you get it, you get it.
As far as him as a person, I always say I wish people knew how funny he was. Because people look at him like Tupac, like he Black Panther and
Stoic.
I'm stoic as hell.
And as far as DJ Head saying that he wishes people knew how funny Kendrick was, it's interesting that he brings this up now because obviously we know Kendrick has a show coming with the creators of South Park very soon. I believe it's supposed to be a musical, and we know that both Kendrick and Trey Stone and Matt Parker are very musically talented. If you didn't know that the creators of South Park were musically gifted, look up Gay Fish, Kanye West, South Park, and you'll get what I'm talking about. But I think that's going to be a great opportunity for Kendrick to show off his comedic talents as well. Because in the last, I would say over a year, we've seen Kendrick only in very serious states. Whether it was Mr. Morale, where he was doing a lot of self-reflection, healing, accepting, and, opening up about his personal flaws, to all the way in 2024 when we saw him mercilessly, if that's a word, take down Drake, stomp out the party, and every picture, every visual from the GNX album cover, the Squabble Up music video, the demeanor at the pop-out show, his photo shoot with Harper Bazaar. I don't think we've seen Kendrick smile once. He was always stone-faced, extremely serious. We obviously know that within his messaging, in the music. Like I said before, Kendrick is on a mission. DJ Head went on to say that even when he won the battle the day after releasing Not Like Us, he had no real reaction. His emotion was consistent. It was stoic, it was passive, it was serious. I guess that's why they call him Kung Fu Kenny. That's the expression of a real warrior.
If you watch the Squabble Up video and you see his demeanor, it's just stone face and he just don't give, that's literally his demeanor. Even the day that Not Like Us dropped, I called him that night and I was like, yo, you won, it's over. I was just going crazy. Like, and he's like, yeah, for sure. Not even I knew. He was just like, yeah, for sure. He was eating food. Like,
That's it?
He was eating some food. It was like, yeah, for sure. It wasn't like excitement. It wasn't like, it was just, yeah, you know, like it was just Tuesday.
But hopefully throughout the Super Bowl, we get to see some of that comedic side as well. Even though I think there's been an extreme kind of seriousness to Kendrick's demeanor, to his music, to his imagery over the last few years, I think there's also been this newfound sense of confidence, especially in 2024, where again, he understands the path that he's trying to set out on. Now, as far as the comedy, as far as the, imagery that might shock the world, as DJ had said, could that come from Kendrick performing Not Like Us? Well, there's a couple things we got to reflect on there. Firstly, obviously the main purpose of this defamation lawsuit that Drake filed was with the objective of blocking Not Like Us from being performed on the Super Bowl stage. UMG has recently made a couple moves to either push back or dismiss the different lawsuits and petitions that Drake has filed against them, seemingly in an attempt to gather more evidence and obviously build a bulletproof case and make sure that Not Like Us can continue to get licensed, published, and promoted across different channels. With the lawsuit, I believe there was supposed to be a hearing at the end of the month or early February, but UMG requested that the judge push it back to March due to the LA wildfires. But simultaneously, this would also allow for no real progress to be made within the case. And I'm no lawyer, but I think the first hearing of this case happening after the Super Bowl makes it more likely that Kendrick will be able to perform this song on that stage. They also released a 144-page document requesting to dismiss the petition that Drake has in Texas against UMG and iHeartMedia. That one was also for defamation, but it was a pre-action petition where Drake was essentially requesting depositions from UMG executives, different documents, different data from the company to see if he has enough proof to actually build up a case. But then he has that full-on lawsuit in New York for defamation against UMG, and that's the one that had been pushed back from early February to now early March. And it's ironic because when Lil Wayne sued Cash Money and UMG way back in like 2015, 2016, they did a similar thing where they sent in hundreds and hundreds of pages worth of documents to basically drown Lil Wayne's lawyers in paperwork, making it harder for him to build up a case and for the case to progress. They're seemingly doing the same thing with Wayne's protege, Drake, dropping these 144-page documents, combating all his allegations to try and get this case dismissed. Let me know if I should break all that down in a separate video. But we did have a tweet from one of these avid OVHOs with the Twitter name OVHO and they give their opinion today stating lots of chatter about the performance of Kendrick's Not Like Us at the Super Bowl. If this occurs, it strengthens Drake's defamation claim against UMG. For Not Like Us to be performed, UMG must license it to the NFL and other broadcasters. The Super Bowl is broadcasted to an audience of 100+ million people annually, so this 100+ million audience would hear the false statements about Drake, further defaming his character, all at the authorization of UMG. Now, just a couple points to combat this here because, this is a Rapaholics video. Obviously, we got to do a little bit of crapping on Drake. So first is the fact that UMG keeps emphasizing this one thing, which is important to the whole case. Even in their motion to dismiss that they released today, they said, rather than Drake addressing his grievances with Kendrick Lamar, petitioner has resorted to strategic legal retaliation against UMG and others in an apparent effort to pressure them to limit the distribution of Not Like Us. Basically saying we've signed both artists, our job is to distribute both artists' music. If Drake has a problem with the subject matter within the music, he's got to take that up with the actual creator of that subject matter. Obviously, as we've gone through a million times as well, there was the whole thing of the fact that Drake has voluntarily submitted himself into that rap battle. He's acknowledged these defamatory statements in his own music prior to Not Like Us, with him rapping on TaylorMade Freestyle, talk about him liking young girls. There's video evidence of weird behavior with Drake and girls who belong at the Teen Choice Awards. These stories were not created by Kendrick Lamar. They've been well documented on the internet way before Not Like Us, and even acknowledged by Drake in music that was released before Not Like Us. And most importantly, the biggest thing that Drake was arguing within this lawsuit is that, it was defamation, right? It ruined his reputation. It ruined his chances at selling as many records in the future. It destroyed his basically financial situation and brand. Brian Zazook on Twitter, one of the founders of Audio Mac, someone with a lot of industry knowledge, He replied to a tweet which showed that Drake's Thank Me Later album had re-entered the Billboard charts for the first time since April, which was the month that this battle commenced. And he said, Drake's sustained success and everlasting popularity significantly softens his claim of professional, financial, and reputational harm. AKA, Drake is still streaming as well as he ever has, so unless you got some tangible proof like Nike didn't want to re-up their contract with Drake because of Not Like Us, something physically to prove that his numbers or the goodwill of his brand has diminished, it's going to be very hard to prove that just by looking at his streaming data alone, because his numbers are better than ever. How are you going to say someone defamed you but not have tangible proof of your brand or value actually diminishing? And on a side note, that same Twitter page that published that chart stat about Drake, shout out Hip Hop All Day, they also noted that Kendrick Lamar right now is the rapper with the most songs with 1 million daily streams on Spotify. Currently, he's got 8 songs right now that are getting over 1 million streams each on Spotify. So to all the OV hoes saying, oh, Kendrick hasn't sold out his stadium tour yet with SZA, or oh, he needs SZA to perform at the Super Bowl, he's got 8 songs right now that are each getting over 1 million streams on Spotify, while Drake only has 2. I think he has more than enough material to perform at the Super Bowl for that full 15 minutes. Now, as far as Not Like Us, aside from Drake having a very weak case with UMG at the surface with the evidence that he's brought forth, aside from UMG simply being the middleman and Kendrick actually delivering the message, I think there's a good chance that Kendrick will most definitely be able to perform Not Like Us on that stage, also considering the fact that he never directly calls Drake a PDF file. Even Drake goes through a Rap Genius type breakdown in the lawsuit of all the different lyrics and bars within the song, but there's not one that directly points to him being a PDF. The whole song is just kind of implying things vaguely, and even when he says certified PDFs, he literally puts it as plural, meaning that there's multiple PDFs. It's not just Drake. Who is it? He doesn't specify. Baca having a weird case? That's a fact. You can go look that up in court documents. Chubbs bringing the hand-me-downs? Drake literally raps about that in Chicago Freestyle. That's my guy, he knows what I like. Blah, 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 he brings me all the women in sight. I forget the bar, but he basically says that Chubbs brings him women that he knows Drake would like. And even aside from all this, right, Kendrick can still perform Not Like Us and just not mention anything to do with PDF files. Even if it's not directed at Drake, I don't see Kendrick performing nothing to do with the implication of anything PDF related. We know that when he performed with Dr. Dre and he performed All Right, they didn't want him to say we hate Po because it was too controversial for that audience, but I believe he still said it anyways. But this is a lot different, right? This is him accusing a group of people of being PDFs, possibly the worst crime that any individual could do. It could arguably be the worst. Logically, I don't think that's the type of energy and messaging that Kendrick is trying to bring to this performance. As far as the song itself, the whole messaging of They Not Like Us, he spoke on that in the past, saying that's just separating the morals and principles that he stands for, the man that he is, versus everyone on the outside. So as far as the messaging of the hook or certain elements of different verses in the song, I 1000% seen him piece that together and playing at the very minimum a little snippet of the record, or possibly even changing some of the lyrics. And I think what most of you guys got to remember is that it's not just about the Super Bowl. Kendrick is about to embark on a massive stadium tour all across North America. He's the first rapper, I believe, aside from Jay-Z, to ever go on a stadium tour. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to perform Not Like Us in full, and Drake won't be able to use that in his lawsuit. Kendrick is doing 2 back-to-back nights at the Rogers Stadium in Toronto, Drake's hometown. Drake has never done a tour where one of the stops was that stadium. So to all of you who are thirsty for Kendrick to embarrass Drake on that Super Bowl stage, my response to you would be, I'm in the same boat, but don't get too excited. He probably won't perform that song in full or make any real references to Drake unless there's subliminal imagery. But he's doing 2 nights in Drake's hometown. He's doing a full-on stadium tour. He's definitely going to be performing the hell out of that song for the next at least, half a year. Don't forget, we've only heard one full performance of that song from Kendrick, and in that concert, he performed the song like damn near 5-6 times. Now, as far as what he probably will perform at the Super Bowl, we know that, especially recently, Kendrick has been, premiering these snippets of new music throughout different visuals, music videos, etc. The Not Like Us music video, he previewed Squabble Up. The GNX album trailer, he previewed a song that we still haven't got. He previewed new music at the Chanel fashion show before this Drake beef ever started. He premiered a song on the All Right music video in like 2015 that we still haven't got. I definitely think Kendrick has new music on the way, and I definitely think some of it will be performed on this Super Bowl stage. I could also see him doing a medley of like some of his biggest hits. From Good Kid, Mad City, I could see him doing Backseat Freestyle and Mad City. On To Pimp a Butterfly, I could see him doing a bit of King Kunta, a bit of All Right. Damn, he could do DNA and Humble. I think with SZA, he'll definitely do the song All the Stars. That's their most cinematic, anthemic song. And it's not only one of their, or the biggest song that they have together, but it's also one of the biggest songs that each of them have in their own catalogs. That song is perfect for the Super Bowl stage. Everything from the messaging, the sound, etc. I could definitely see that being performed even over a Luther or a Gloria or a 30 for 30. The only other collaboration they have together that I could see them performing is possibly Luther, but I think it's too slow for that type of setting. It's too low energy. Maybe they would do a bit of the hook at the beginning just to kind of set things off in a more calm fashion, similar to how Kendrick did on Euphoria, where he started with a very calm beat and calm flow, and then he slowly built up. I unfortunately don't see him really doing much from Mr. Morale either, because for the same reasons as Luther, it's more of a stripped back, calm, reflective, more somber album. It's not really the type of music you'd perform on this big celebratory stage. Maybe a song like N95, but before he does a song like that, I would see him doing a song like Family Ties, a much more high energy anthemic song, plus it gives him a reason to bring out Baby Keem. Speaking of, other guests, I definitely hope he brings out Black Hippie, Schoolboy Q, Ab-Soul, or J-Rock. I don't know what songs he would do with them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe he'll bring out Schoolboy Q for like Man of the Year. You have to remember, this is the Super Bowl, right? So like any song that's performed either has to be, globally known or a super high energy, positive anthem type song. I could definitely see him doing some stuff off GNX, probably TV off, and I hope he brings out Lefty Gunplay on that. That would be great for the city of LA, plus his whole, crazy, spooky, hilarious verse is one of the more iconic parts of the song. I think he would bring out Mustard for that as well, and do some sort of transition between TV off and Not Like Us, given the similarities in their sound and their production. And it would just make sense. Those are two of the biggest anthems that he's had in the last year. And then you got Tyler, who's second biggest in LA right now. He even said it on Chromacopia. He's second behind Kenny. I definitely think Kendrick is going to bring him out. They both had massive Q4s in 2024. They both represent LA in such unique, different ways. They both have anthems to perform. I could see an Earthquake. I could see a See You Again on the Super Bowl stage, or a Sticky. I think that's why we got the marching band in this trailer. But we'll see. Those are my predictions for the songs that we might hear and the guests that we might see. I think he'll also, again, have some imagery that really emphasizes the calls to stopping the violence that Kendrick has been initiating over the last year. More initiatives of unifying the city, maybe bringing some lesser known artists on stage with him. He's got tons of them on this GNX album, so it'd be the perfect time to, give them possibly the most massive platform they could have. And I think this performance will just really be about everything to do with Kendrick's heritage. There's going to be TDE representation. We already see that with SZA being one of the guests. DJ had confirmed there's going to be tons of cultural references and imagery. I think he'll really make it a point to represent the West Coast and give, those 100+ million people watching a glimpse inside his culture, his background, his neighborhood. And I don't think this is just going to be a celebration of Kendrick Lamar or any of his accomplishments. I think this is going to be his biggest chance yet at pushing LA to the forefront of not just hip-hop culture, but music in general, and elevating that sound, bringing it to a bigger stage in an extremely creative way, while also, emphasizing the point that hip-hop is experiencing some sort of renaissance here. The only other time we ever saw this was when Dr. Dre performed at the Super Bowl, and all the songs we heard, yes, they were massive hits, but they all brought lyricism to the forefront. He did Still Dre, Eminem did Lose Yourself, Kendrick did All Right, 50 Cent did In the Club. Aside from that, Kendrick isn't coming with a Please Don't Stop the Music or a Blinding Lights type energy. For the last 10 years or 15 years, he's done the best job out of any other rapper to really preserve the essence of the culture, prioritize positive messaging, strong lyricism, empowerment, improvement, all of that within his music, and he's just going to be doing that on a much larger scale, on the largest stage that he's ever had full authority to spearhead his own creative direction in. I don't know if that made sense. I'm tired. inspired, but to put it simply, this is a Kendrick Lamar show, all right? So don't expect any sort of fluff or bubblegum. This is going to be the highest standard of musical and visual performance, prioritizing hip-hop and cultural unity and bringing that to a platform of hundreds of millions of people, some of whom have maybe never even heard a hip-hop song in their entire lives. This will be the catalyst to a renaissance within the genre, creative and cultural uplifting. And as far as a stage bigger than this, we know that there's been rumors Drake was offered the Super Bowl, rejected it, and is possibly performing at some sort of World Cup event. They don't have this formal, Super Bowl type halftime show, but even the Super Bowl halftime show started off as something they didn't take very serious at the beginning. Then they got Michael Jackson to perform at it, and everything changed from then. And we even heard 50 Cent a couple years back after he did the Super Bowl. He stated that the World Cup offered him and Eminem about $10 million to perform at one of their live events. So maybe they're trying to take that next step in competing with the Super Bowl to make a moment as culturally and globally impactful musically as the Super Bowl has been doing. But as far as the biggest stage that any rapper could perform at this point in time, as far as we know, it's the Super Bowl. And Kendrick is no doubt about to change the course of hip-hop with his performance. And beyond that, with it, you got to remember, he's then embarking on a massive stadium tour all throughout 2025 with tons of hints at new music on the way. This is going to be the start of some insanity. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.
There's a lot of little nuggets in both of their disses that if it wasn't for these breakdowns, and salute to guys like this, Rapaholics, because I think they directly get it.